Hi, Jonathan here. I want to give you a little insight on how I make my spearmint tea. I like it organic and I pick it out of the garden and then I hang it up on thread. I tie it up in little pieces. Probably about five pieces I string up in one thread, then I go down the rope, and then I end up having a string of spearmint tea, and that is apple mint, and that is chocolate mint. As you can see, I tied the pieces separately in about between 4 and 5 strings. Now I'm going to cut the pieces inside the bowl individually and separate them and get the threads out. Now you can see that I separated the leaves from the threads and everything. So now you can, what you do is you separate the stems, the leaves from the stems, and I usually pull them from a backward position where I separate the stems, because later on you're going to use the stems and you're going to grind them in the coffee grinder. So you want to save the stems and just pull off the leaves. Save the stems by putting those aside, and just take the back end and pull down. So something I didn't explain earlier was that you should have your leaves dry out for at least a week and a half to 2 weeks, until at least it comes a little crisp, dries out where you have no soft bending or not too much bending, where it becomes completely dry, where it will blend up and it won't cause water tension and moisture to cause mold. So you don't want mold growing inside your spearmint leaves after they've been ground up and put aside for storage and stuff like that. So here I have I've separated the leaves from the stems. The stems we're gonna cut up into little probably centimeter or quarter-inch stubs that we're gonna grind into the blender, the coffee blender, so that way we can get it to a finer powder that looks more like this. But then ground it to the part where it becomes more powdery. Then you can put in the rest as it gets finer. So that way you can mix with your ground spearmint. Here I chopped up the stems that we got from the spearmint leaves that we grew out in the garden and dried out. So now I cut them up into little pieces. And now I'm gonna put them in the coffee blender. As you can see, I ground up the spearmint into a fine powder. Next, the leaves. This is just the stems. So here I'm going to put some of the leaves into the blender. Try not to pack it too much and give it little taps on the blender so it doesn't get jammed too easily at first. Start the process all over again. Until all the leaves are done. As you can see, I dried out the spearmint leaves and I ground them up now. Now they're into a finer powder. Taking these stems out, getting more missing stems. But next we'll be mixing spearmint with the stems, the leaves with the stems, because you want the nutrients within the stems. If you want to have more nutrients, it's more organic, so you don't want to lose out the stem, leave the stems out, because there's certain oils or certain things that you get inside the stems that you won't get inside just the leaves. Now I put all the spearmint leaves inside a container that I recycled, and I dried it out thoroughly so I can actually have no moisture in the container, because you don't want mold, which might not be too common, but if you have just a little bit, it might ruin the tea. So I just shake it up inside the bottle, and next you can make a cup of tea. Use about 2 teaspoons or 2 tablespoons, heaping tablespoons, and you can mix chamomile if you want to. So here I made my spearmint tea that I had just ground up, and I used a little chamomile that I got from the store. I used 1 teaspoon of chamomile and 1 heaping teaspoon of spearmint tea. And I had the result of a sweetened tea that naturally has a sweetened flavor to it, so you don't need much sugar. So I hope you liked the video, and I hope you subscribe. I got all kinds of interesting things I talk about, do artwork, some funny things, but spearmint tea is one of my favorite.